Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Conversations with Carrie and Dani. Dani, what's on your heart today? I know we've talked about several different things, and um, where are we gonna go at the moment?
Okay. Well, I had a thought. I had a thought. I had a pile of thoughts actually. Not all appropriate for the internet, but that's okay.
Right.
Um, so in our last episode, we talked about am I too nice?
Yes.
Okay. And that got me thinking about what I was taught growing up as a kid about anger.
Hmm.
Now, what actually got me thinking about anger, and I'll ask you some questions about it too, is
Yeah.
because um I know so I know that there's something recently that you read that made you really angry. And I
Mm,
don't think we should talk about what you read that made you angry because I think we should do a whole show on it when all the information comes out. But
yeah. Yep.
just briefly, you can say what it was and share how angry you were. And then I got some questions about anger for you.
Yeah. So I have was looking at the Adventist today. I follow them on my Facebook because they have a pretty balanced view on a lot of things that are going on in the Adventist church right now. And apparently there's been some issues at one of the summer camps here in the US. And I believe that how the situation was handled put two young adults in danger. And as a mom of two young adults, I was in the emotions about that because I feel like when you send your kids as campers or your young adults as staff members to a summer camp,
Mm,
you would hope that the leadership would have their safety as a top priority. And as a mama bear, I will, uh, if I needed to, I'd fight to the death for my kids or anybody else's kid for that matter. So yeah, it got me a little worked up, and I think some of the things that made me a little even more upset was a lot of the comments on the article basically saying that, oh, wait until all of the information and the instance that was presented. And I think probably by the time this is released on YouTube, there's going to be more information out, and I think we'll probably do another post on it, but I don't want to talk too much about it because we don't have all the info yet.
yeah.
But people
So,
were trying to excuse leadership.
yeah. And so I thought that your response of being angry was perfectly justified. And
Mhm.
I felt really angry when you told me about this and said, you've got kids going to summer camp and stuff. But again, rather than getting into the details of that, I want to talk about the anger.
Mm.
Because I also got angry when I read the comments, some of the comments, not all of them. And the comments underneath it that made me angry were the people that were going, oh, you shouldn't be angry and upset about all this. There's always two sides to a story and stuff. And that we're trying to just make it all. And what made me angry with the people that said, you shouldn't be angry enough to post this on social media. And so it was like they were saying it's okay to be angry, but certain actions, but be careful what you do. And now I agree with that. I
Yeah.
totally agree that I think that anger needs to be separated from actions.
Hmm.
Um, so I just thought, thinking about this whole anger thing, about the people that were upset, the people were angry, I was thinking, even though we haven't had time to research it and really look into it, we don't do the whole technical thing. I thought we could talk about our experiences of what we were taught about anger growing up in a high control religion, um,
Mm.
and how it's impacted things. And I know we've both changed a lot from that. It's just, yeah, because what annoyed me the most was the people that were saying, be quiet,
Yeah.
be quiet. What was the one you said? Go read Matthew 18.
Yes, was Matthew 18 fully expressed before um the parent went public with what was going on? I'm
Yep.
like, okay.
It's so Matthew 18 was part of what I was taught when I was a kid about anger.
Hmm. Yeah.
So shall we actually have a quick look at exactly what it says again?
Yes.
Oh, you know roughly what it said, don't you?
Yeah.
Good pastor's wife? Because I know that while you're looking it up, when I was in the high control religion I grew up in, I was taught basically, I was not taught, it was brainwashed into me. You have to turn the other cheek. It doesn't matter how angry you are, everything has to be forgiven, not just forgiven. We talked about forgiveness in a previous episode, so we might touch on that again a little bit.
Hmm.
But you need to turn the other cheek. And not to mention, I know we've talked about this before, you don't just turn the other cheek, but I was told that it's a really good, I should embrace suffering. It's a really good thing to suffer. Um,
If you're not being
suffer.
persecuted, you're not doing something right. You're doing something wrong.
Ah, yeah. Did we talk about that before? I was definitely taught that. If you're not being persecuted, if there's not something going wrong in your life, it's because you're not a good enough Christian for Satan to take any notice of you. So he's not trying to make your life awkward.
Hmm.
So being upset and persecuted was glorified. Um, and I'm not saying you shouldn't embrace suffering. I want to talk about the extreme edges now of some of the things that we were taught.
Hmm.
And further on, we'll keep going back to this. We get to this is I want to suggest that we learn to be curious about anger,
Hmm.
and that it can be used for some positive things. But we'll come back to that. Tell me what it says in Matthew 18.
So I am reading from the New Revised Standard Updated Edition.
Okay.
If your brother or sister sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. If you are listened to, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you, so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of two or three witnesses. If that person refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church, and if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. So basically it says if somebody won't have a conversation with you about the wrong that they did to you,
Mm-hmm.
then you take a couple other people with, so there's witnesses to the conversation.
That makes sense because that's like you can
Yep.
then say, "Hey, I'm
But
telling the truth here."
this translation seems to be a little different than what I grew up with. I'm gonna pull up the King James on my phone. I don't have a King James Bible handy.
Okay.
Shocker.
Well, the other thing is too is I know that it's come up before, Carrie, that we thought something was different to what we grew up with, and actually, it was the Bible hadn't changed, but what we were taught wasn't exactly what was there because
Yep.
We were taught
Yep.
Ellen White's version of it. So yeah. So have you found it in the King James?
Yes.
What does it say?
Says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then go with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of two or three witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, then let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. I always thought it said elders.
Yeah, I
Or
thought it said elders too. Because that says basically the same as what you said the first time.
yeah, maybe that's just okay. Well, let's look at the NIV. Because I'm assuming it's not going to go from just a person to an elder. Nope, it just says take one or two others. The NLT, one or two others. Now that's interesting because that was just what I had thought it was elders. Were you under that?
Yeah, I was too. So, um, I just had a little quick Google on the White Estate website,
Oh, yes.
and
Yes,
I
yes,
haven't got a
yes.
lot of stuff just yet, but just looking here,
We have
a
a
few
love-hate
basic ones.
relationship with the Ellen White website, don't we?
Yep. So yeah, how to deal with anger, August 17, e.g. White Estate. Ellen White likens anger to basically a resentful spirit of murder, and passionate retaliatory words are spiritually destructive. And giving into anger as an uncontrolled passion is as bad as the guy that's been drinking alcohol. You can read the full article if you want to go and see it. That was how to deal with anger.
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, and of course, she warns that every time, I won't use her words because they're like exhibition of wrath, blah, 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 but every time you actually let yourself feel angry, it weakens your nervous system and weakens your moral powers, making it progressively harder to control your temper next time. Um, there's some actually really interesting stuff in there. But without going into all of that, oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, and I think we were just taught to um ignore your emotions.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, I've got to interrupt. I just want to
no,
read you
go
this
ahead.
quote from Desire of Ages.
Yes, please.
Okay. Those who at any so it's page 310. Those who at any of course you've got to have the right printing of it to find it on that page. It'll be in a
Yep.
different page for the newer printings. Those who at any supposed provocation feel at liberty to indulge anger and resentment are opening their heart to Satan. Bitterness and animosity must be banished from the soul if we want to be in harmony with heaven. And then, of course, it goes on to quote Matthew 6:24 down further. If we indulge in anger, lust, covetousness, hatred, selfishness, or any other sin, we become servants of sin. Here's the Matthew 6:24 quote. No man can serve two masters. Using it, and so it's used in Desire of Ages for anger there.
Mm.
Oh. And then, of course, she does say in Desire of Ages further down that same page on 310, it is true there is an indignation that is justifiable, even in followers of Christ. And so the only reason you're allowed to be angry is when you see God being dishonored, his service being brought into disrepute. And so that bit I was always taught was his church being brought into disrepute.
So you can only be
Um,
angry if people are saying bad things about the church, even if the church did something that made you angry.
yep. It does also say here, to be fair, about you see innocent people oppressed. Um, and such anger born of sensitive morals is not a sin, but that's we've talked about this before when she says one thing and then takes it back.
Hmm.
But most of it right through here, again here, the Youth Instructors Manual, E.G. White, November 10. Many look on things on their darker side and they magnify their supposed grievances, nurse their wrath, and are filled with revengeful, hateful feelings when in truth they had no cause for these feelings. Resist these wrong feelings and you will experience a great change in your association with your fellow men. And
So basically,
this
she's
book,
saying there are certain feelings and certain emotions that are wrong.
yep, this is my favorite one. This is from one of her letters on the E.G. White estate, letter 103. Um, The giving way to violent emotions endangers life. Many die under a burst of rage and passion. Many educate themselves to have spasms. These they can prevent if they will, but it requires willpower to overcome a wrong course of action. All this must be part of the education received in school, for we are God's property. The sacred temple of the body must be kept pure and uncontaminated so God's spirit can dwell within.
So people get spasms if they're mad.
So yeah, and the Review and Herald article from October 13, 1907. Review and Herald article. And I know 1907, you're thinking this a long time ago, but I grew up in an Adventist church that still preaches Ellen White as the one and only prophet. It's in those 31 fundamentals. So go and read what you signed up if you're still a member. Read what you signed with your baptismal certificate. You signed to believe in her. And she said, Review and Herald article, there is a wonderful power in silence. When impatient words are spoken to you, do not retaliate. Words spoken in reply to one who is angry usually act as a whip. lashing the temper into greater fury. But anger, when met by silence, quickly dies away. Let the Christian bridle his tongue, firmly resolving not to speak harsh and impatient words. With the tongue bridled, he may be victorious in every trial of patience through which he is called to pass. And you know what? That actually sounds beautiful, don't you think?
It does. There's a bit of, I mean, yes, we should exercise self-control when we're angry, right? We don't need
Yeah.
to allow all of the impulses that we feel when we are mad to come true.
No.
Because if I did that, we'd all have a problem. Um, however, we do need to, I think being able to sit with the emotion and go, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Because usually there's a really good reason that you're angry.
Yeah.
And using that anger as fuel for change is not a bad thing. Using that anger as fuel for murder is probably a bad thing or
Yeah.
violence. But she's basically saying if somebody's yelling at you in anger, just be quiet.
Yep, and I understand that I agree with, but
Hmm.
I grew up in a religious culture where it was taken further than that. And
Mm.
I'd like to say that where I grew up through my teenage years and as a child and pathfinders and church schools and all the things I was taught, that it was taken further than just use your common sense. And, it could be even Proverbs talks about using your common sense and letting people calm down before you try and talk to them and stuff like that. I believe it was further than that. And it was like, that whole thing again, it's not said, I insist that you do this, but it's said and taught to you in a whole pile of other ways. And basically, I grew up in a high control religion that insisted that I stay small and quiet and, let's be honest,
Hmm. Yeah.
compliant with all the things that they wanted done and wanted me to believe.
Hmm.
Um, and again, it's that whole separating you thing, separation. The Bible says way more about, it quotes way more about Jesus saying, I've come that you may have life and you may have life to the full, and way more about the joy of stuff and all that sort of things, way more about joy than it says about anger.
Hmm.
And you can't just put half your feelings in a box. So if you
Hmm.
if you're being taught to put your feelings in a box and lock them away and taught that being angry is scary and being angry is really dangerous, as soon as you lock some of your feelings away, you actually lose access to all of them. It's not
Hmm.
it's not like you open a box of chocolates and just pick out the peppermint one. Um, and I think that not being taught to handle anger, to experience anger, and to embrace it as something that can bring about positive change and to use it for good things and all sorts of other things, I believe that you also lose access to part of your joy.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't. Do you feel that when you were younger in the high control religious atmosphere you grew up in, because yours wasn't quite as high controlled as mine,
Hmm.
do you believe that when it comes to anger or any form of, I'm talking about not just anger as in a whole explosion here. I'm just talking about being angry about anything. Do you believe that? How do you feel? I mean, like I said, I was taught to stay quiet, small, compliant, suck it up. You won't get to heaven if you feel angry.
Well, and
What
I
they
think,
teach you?
uh, I- you know, I think a lot of my personality, I don't know, is it my innate personality? I'm not sure at this point,
Or was it
is
brainwashed into you?
exactly, just to be, um, just to go along to get along. And if there was something that made you mad, is it something you can even do anything about anyway? And if you couldn't, what was the point of getting mad about it? Because you're not going to change it.
Wow. And you know what that's called? That is right along the edges and a part of learned helplessness.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And people with learned helplessness and that have embraced learned helplessness to a great extent, they often don't ever get round to doing much in life because they have no belief in their power to change or affect anything in life.
Hmm.
I was definitely taught that when you say that, Carrie, that really resonates. And I'm like, yeah, yep, I got great
Hmm.
doses of that growing up too.
Hmm. Yeah. And now I'm in the point in life where I feel like I'm learning to find my voice. Um, which is, is it a shame it took this long? Probably.
Yep.
But finding my voice, being able to speak up when I have questions or when something,
Mm.
but I think it's because I am more in an environment where questions are not scary for those around me.
Yep.
Or not, so can you imagine? And I mean, I know sitting in Sabbath school as an adult going, but I wasn't brave enough to put my hand up and say, try to question some of the beliefs and some of the things that were said because you didn't want to rock the boat in public,
Yep. And that's
you
a lot
know?
of what we saw on that website when we were looking through the comments people were making.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Most of the people saying just be quiet and shut up were the ones that were saying it's inappropriate to be angry in public.
Right. Yeah, because many believe that you can't speak truth to power or that you shouldn't. And I think that in many situations, that's what happens is we wait for the powers that be to handle a situation, knowing we wait for them, but knowing they're not going to handle it in the right way. But you don't feel
Oh,
like you
don't forget.
have the power to insist that they handle it in a better way.
Yep. And don't forget the eternal hope that they'll be different because they're in the
Yes.
process of sanctification. So,
Yes, and they're not perfect. So
they're not perfect.
if they mess up even royally, they're not perfect. You should
Forgive and
forgive
forget.
and forget, move on. God
And
put
not
them
only,
there for a reason.
not just move on, forgive, forget, and give them the same opportunity again as part of forgetting.
Yep.
You can't
Yep.
hold a grudge, you won't get to heaven. Of course, don't you love how, and it was for me anyway, holding a grudge was actually equated with emotional intelligence. So if you're emotionally intelligent enough to say, I am going to forgive this person, I'm not going to hold anger and bitterness, but I'm going to move on. But in moving on, I'm going to set boundaries that mean they can't do this to me a second time. That's still holding a grudge because you haven't given them everything back again. Everything back being the opportunity to hurt you again. And I'm sure we covered that in our thing about forgiveness, but it crosses over into anger.
Yes. Because
Um,
the things that make you angry are the things that make you have the conversation about forgiveness.
oh, yes and no. I've got this fabulous quote I want to read you.
Oh,
It's from a book called The Altar Within,
okay.
written by a lady called Juliet Diaz. Amazing. Listen to this.
Mhm.
She says, anger holds a profound intelligence.
Mm,
So it doesn't say anger's going to lead you to hell and you're going to die forever. Anger holds a profound intelligence, one that speaks to what matters most to us. It is a compass pointed towards injustice,
mm,
a signal that something needs to change.
mm,
When we lean into this emotion with curiosity and care, it becomes a tool for clarity and action. Anger can help us articulate boundaries, call out harm, and I love this one, and stand firm against oppressive systems. In,
yes.
in this way, anger is not the opposite of peace. It is a fire that clears the way for it.
Oh, preach it.
Seriously, this lady's like, whoa.
What's the name of that book again?
The Altar, ALT, The Altar Within. And it's written by a lady called Juliet Diaz, Diaz, and that's from page 81 and 82.
Mm, yeah.
Um,
Because I think we think of anger as always being a negative thing. It's
no,
not. I don't think. I mean, I think it's an agent for change, and change can be a very good thing.
not just an agent for change, but she's absolutely correct. And I know this from my own personal experience. It's a compass pointing towards a justice and a signal that something needs to change. When I used to teach boundaries courses, I used to teach that I used to say to people that because I remember even just a couple of weeks ago, someone said to me, I think I need to set some boundaries and I don't know where I need to set them though. I just know something's not right. And I said, look at the things that make you angry.
Mm,
Anger is like a warning sign that someone has crossed one of your boundaries, a boundary that you probably have no idea that you've even set.
mm-hmm.
You know, and anger will show you if you just listen, if you listen to it, you get really angry and you think, why, like you said, why am I angry? What's this about? You will learn the things that are important to you. You will learn about beliefs and um yeah, yeah. You learn about beliefs and boundaries, things that you believe are important that you might not have even registered that you believe. If I said to you, write down all the things that you believe are important, write down the things that the goals of who and why you want to be in life, write down the things you don't want to be. You might go, oh, actually, I don't really know. But you can
Mm,
see all of those things and learn all of those things about yourself if you look at what irritates you. You know, irritation being a form of anger, just another word for it,
mm-hmm.
all on that continuum.
Mm,
And I think also I've learned to do it as an adult, but as a child and a teenager, I don't believe I was taught that anger is an emotion and that the emotion's separate from the behavior, like that the two can be separate.
mm-hmm.
So I was never taught that you can just be angry and look at it as something neutral and then choose a behavior later. Um, I was taught all the Ellen White stuff, which is if you get angry, you're going to go to hell. Never let the sun go down upon your wrath. Great advice. If you're married, don't go to bed angry. But
I do need to sleep occasionally, though. No, sorry.
yeah, it wasn't taught to me in a way that
Right.
had, um, it wasn't taught to me in a way where I was taught to look at anger and to use it to set boundaries and to use it to all those things. It was just a, this is a sin. Shove it down, take control of your thoughts, and pray for forgiveness for feeling so angry, annoyed, irritated, or whatever other word that you want
Mm-hmm.
to have. If you're angry, you obviously haven't forgiven the person. No, if you're angry, not all, sometimes, yes. Okay, let's be honest. Sometimes if you're angry, you haven't forgiven them, but not always. If you're angry, it might be that you are still emotionally or physically unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're grown up in a high control religion, a whole pile of the time you were actually emotionally and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes physically unsafe. But we were taught that that was all part of the process of being a human on a flawed planet and to
So,
just accept
so
it.
did you never feel like you could have justified anger, like be mad for good reason?
Um, in the early years, no,
Mm,
only the ones Ellen White said, and that was to protect God and to protect God. And by association, if you're protecting God, you have to protect the church because you know the Adventist church is the only ones that are going to get to heaven.
right. Yes, the
Um,
Adventist church equals God. God equals the Adventist church. Yes.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
and it might not be taught like that anymore, but growing up for me it was.
Yeah.
So no, no. And if you were angry, you had to like push it down fast as possible, ask for forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
come back into a right state with God, or you might not get to heaven.
Yeah.
I can remember the first time someone said to me, and it must someone had said to me, and they were quote talking about the Narnia books, and
Mm-hmm.
this is like years and years ago. And the first time someone said to me, you know, you don't actually have to defend God. Because you know, you grew up with that, didn't you? Always be ready to give an answer for your faith.
Yes. Yep.
The first time someone said to me, you don't have to defend God, you do realize that if God's who he says he is, that he can defend himself, right? And I was like, what?
I know that just really hit me a few years ago. I'm like, why do I need to defend God? He's
Yeah, but growing up with what
yeah,
I was taught about the
yeah.
investigative judgment, our only reason for being alive is to defend
Yes.
God.
Yes. And if we screwed up, we
He
gave a
looks bad.
bad, it looks bad for God. It looks bad for Jesus. you know,
Absolutely.
and it's just like, you know what, I think now, especially in the climate of the US right now, is the more that us as Christians are willing to admit that we're wrong, willing to admit that we have screwed up, the more we are defending Christ. Because it's
Yeah.
when we're always right and are never able to take accountability for our actions is when Christianity gets a bad name, which it has here right now, you know? So, hmm yep.
Yeah.
And we've got just a few minutes, well, just under 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Goes
I
quick.
just want. Okay. I want to wind up about anger, saying, think about anger. Take note of the things that make you angry. You might learn something about yourself. Um, think about, does your anger have a color? Does it have a feeling? Where does it sit in your body? I can imagine. For me, I can't answer all those questions now. When I was growing up in the church and when I was younger, if someone said to me, "What color's your anger?" I always said blue. And everyone's like, "What anger's red?" But for me, for right through to my 30s, anger was pale ice blue. And for me, anger was always a really, really calm, logical place in my head.
I've
Not a
never
red
thought about
hot
what
pa
color my anger was.
Mine was never a red hot passionate feeling. It was like a calm, logical place in my head. And if I ever got angry to the point that I felt ice cold and calm, then that was bad. But so learning for me to learn about anger, it I believe that it was that experience was it was that way for me because I'd always been taught that not to trust your feelings. Feelings are bad.
Yeah.
You've got to be, logical. The whole, even the very elect will be deceived if you just go with what you can see, feel, and believe. So it all needs to be in your head. Um, it was growing up in Adventism in a lot of ways was a very push your feelings down, and it was a very cerebral experience. It was really, it's all up here.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and I'm reading some interesting books on that at the moment and hoping to do some work with well, talk about it to help other people look at connecting their mind and their body. But what do I want to say about anger? If you're deconstructing from a high control religion, or I like to call it disentangling, it's
Yes.
okay to feel angry. Do
Hmm.
not be scared of your anger. Um, you won't feel angry forever. I know some people have said, if I look at all the ways my high control religion hurt me, I could be angry forever.
Hmm.
You won't be angry forever. It's normal to feel angry when you look at all the things you've lost in your childhood and teenage years.
Hmm.
Because of how you were taught the world was evil and bad, and you had to be in the world but totally separate from it.
Hmm.
There's lost opportunities, and I just want to. If you look at what the lady said in that book, basically she's saying not only is anger an emotion, but it is also a tool.
Hmm.
And I just want to encourage people to think of anger as a part of yourself that holds wisdom and intelligence.
Hmm.
And make friends with your anger rather than avoiding it because it can be really powerful and really
Yeah.
healing.
Yeah.
And this is anger the emotion. I'm not talking about anger the behavior where you, I don't know, smash your computer screen because it didn't turn on
That's
type
called
thing.
pitching a fit or throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to encourage everyone to get to know their angry parts and to make
Yeah.
friends with every part of yourself, not to live a life where all your parts are separate. Collect them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Actually, really, really, really good advice. I'll have to think about what color my anger is. I haven't even ever thought about it before. I suppose red, but it's nothing I've thought about. So I'll have to think about that next time I'm mad at something. What color is this?
Well, mine's changing. It's not as ice cold and blue as it used to be. And I think that's a really healthy thing for me.
Well, and I think icy cold is almost scarier,
Yes, but it was still, and yeah. And
but
I
it's
believe
calmer, you know?
very calm. When I'm angry, I used to get very quiet and calm. But again, that's not a part of my nature. It's a part
Hmm.
of who I was trained and indoctrinated to be as
Because your red
growing up in a,
anger was not accepted
yep,
as valid, but the
yep.
icy blue is okay because you're not being emotional.
Yep, and that whole thing you talked about, the whole people pleasing thing, you can just
Hmm.
keep it all under the radar.
Yep. Yep.
So yes, it's just interesting to see how what I was trained to be is different to the person that I've become.
Yeah. Yep.
And I
Yep.
hope that in sharing some of these things, it just might help anyone listening, might help start set them free from some of the things they were taught that wasn't true.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. We will see everybody at the next conversations with Carrie and Dani. Any questions, comments, like and subscribe. I know we've had some stories emailed to us, and if you'd like to keep sending us emails, that would be awesome. Everybody, have a fantastic day, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.